Hello everyone, this is Robert D. Felice of The Wrestling Apologist, and I am here today presenting something that I've wanted to do for a while. This is a tier list breakdown of the SmackDown series of video games. Now, there's 26 games in total that I'm going to be ranking today. It goes from WWF SmackDown, released on the PlayStation in early 2000, and extends to present-day WWE 2K26. I chose to do this series first because I had initially set out to do an entire ranking of all WWE games ever released, and that video was just a little too long, and I want to be more concise with my thoughts, and since this is the most well-known and prevalent of the WWE video game series, this is where I'm starting. But if you'd like to see more of this, let me know in the comments, and we'll see what else we can break down, because there's plenty of video games in WWE history to touch upon. Now, the SmackDown series kicks off with WWF SmackDown in early 2000, and for gamers on the PlayStation, it was a breath of fresh air, because prior to the release of SmackDown, all we had was Warzone and Attitude. Now, I was fortunate enough growing up to also have a Nintendo 64, so I knew what great wrestling games were in the form of the Aki series across the WCW and WWE released games. But SmackDown changed things up. It was fast-paced, it was arcadey, and it was also presenting WWE in the peak of the Attitude Era. And this series really did kick off with a bang, introduced special guest referee, introduced the Dudley Boys to WWE games, had a lot of hardcore match styles, and I'm going to put this first game in the B section, because I really do think it's a solid game, but its ideas would be improved upon so quickly, because by the end of that year, we would have the release of SmackDown 2. SmackDown 2 Know Your Role is a really special title for me. It's a game that I have so many fond memories of playing with my brother and his friends, and that season mode was endless, and you never knew what kind of cutscenes you were getting, if you were going to run into the random unknown CAWs in the hallway and then have a match against them. Sometimes there would be cutscenes where if you lost a title match, you would steal the championship backstage, and then it would revert to you being the champion, because possession is 9/10 of the law. I love this game. It introduces ladder matches, Hell in a Cell, even though it was a very unique cell. There's so much to love about this, and I'm going to go ahead right now and say it's the first S tier on this list. I think this game is peak. I think it's peak PlayStation gameplay, and I think everyone should try to get their hands on it. There's still a great modding community supporting this game. There's ECW mods. I've seen a great WCW mod based around this game. There's modern stuff. There's Legends mods. SmackDown 2 Know Your Role is still going very strong in 2026, and there's a good reason for it. It's iconic. The next game, however, for me, isn't so iconic. It's SmackDown Just Bring It. It's the debut of WWF on the PlayStation 2, and there's definitely some improvements that warrant the new hardware. 6-man Hell in a Cell matches. You get full entrances now. Triple H has the Motorhead theme. Undertaker has Limp Bizkit. Fred Durst himself is in the game. But beyond that, there's so much that they took away or just didn't include, that this game really was a drastic decrease. The in-game commentary is terrible. It's basically a meme at this point, because Michael Cole and Taz and their recorded lines were so bad. I really didn't like the fact that they got rid of the multiplayer season mode, and made it more of a single player thing. And there weren't linear objectives, but it would end a lot quicker than SmackDown 2. And I just didn't like what we ended up with overall. And I'm honestly going to say, with the benefit of full retrospect and hindsight, I think it's a D tier. Because it's such a dramatic decrease from where the series was just a year before on older hardware. That being said, they pick it up very, very quickly with SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. This includes all the people from the invasion angle that we're missing from Just Bring It. Rob Van Dam is here. Booker T is here. Brock Lesnar's first game is this game, and I love this game. To me, even though Here Comes the Pain, which I'm going to talk about next, is objectively better, I've had more fun doing just the season mode of Shut Your Mouth. And being able to go across to ride the subway and go to WWF New York. Maybe you find someone in the subway and have a hardcore match. Maybe you waste your time on a nothing burger of an interaction. Or maybe you go into the GM's office and request a title match. I loved everything this game did. I think they had some incredible, unique storylines like Vince McMahon and Ric Flair coming together to join forces. And I really miss the creativity that existed in this kind of a game. You know, climbing the fist, climbing the King of the Ring chair, climbing the insurrection set, the X, you could also climb. There was a lot of fun you could have here, and I think that's something that's missing in games today. And honestly, I would give this an S if not for the fact that it's still missing blood. It's still too arcadey. The next game is really about to get a great grappling system going, and it's an A tier for sure, but it's one of the best games I've ever played. SmackDown Here Comes the Pain is probably my pick for the objective best WWE game in history, and I'm putting it in S tier right now. I think this game has one of the best grappling systems. I think the inclusion of blood was so important at this time because before WrestleMania 19, which also released in 2003, wrestling fans hadn't gotten blood in a WWE game since No Mercy. So there's about a 3-year drought of just not having blood, and if you know anything about WWE at that time, blood was an important part of the package, and I think adding it here helped that immersion so much. There's also the inclusion of the Elimination Chamber mode. They had the bra and panties match added, which you can look back now and cringe, but at the time it was a lot of fun, especially when you're 10 years old. It's so, you're all giddy to like, oh look, I managed to take this person's clothes off, and then there's the glitch of if you do the people's elbow, the women will, instead of taking off an elbow pad, they'll just take off their clothes, which will lead to them costing themselves the match. There's so much fun here. The season mode didn't have the kind of first person full control of Shut Your Mouth, but they kept a lot of the elements, a lot of the choices mattered, and it's just such a fun game to play even to this day. That's why, much like Shut Your Mouth, it's still being modded. People are still playing this game over others because it's an iconic, perfect game. Even without mods or anything like that, the roster itself, you've got Goldberg, Brock, Cena, Edge, Randy, Hunter, Ultimo Dragon's in this game. Hulk Hogan was going to be in this, so was Ultimate Warrior. It's such a special game and really feels like the peak of WWE even today, because you can look back on this game, which is currently 23 years old, and say, wow, there's stuff in here that I still can't do in a WWE game today. And yes, this is iconic. Unfortunately, I don't think the original SmackDown vs. Raw is iconic at all. I kind of feel like I did with Just Bring It, where it's such a decrease that I kind of wanted to stick to Here Comes the Pain. There's a lot of fun things in this game. I like the creating a championship. I like that they added online play. They added voiceovers to season mode. But a lot of the wild and crazy and free spirit of the previous games was starting to be snuffed out here. Instead of all these backstage arenas, you only had the parking lot brawl. Instead of this wild roster of legends, you had a really stripped down, bare group. And that's not anyone's fault as far as like developers, it's just the hand they were given. But still, it was a huge downturn, and it's why I'm only going to give this game a C tier. Good news is the next game bumps it right back up because SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 is insanely good. It introduces GM mode, which is beloved and a favorite, and fans wanted it back for so long that the modern games finally had to add a My GM. This is the first game you can play on PSP, which was revolutionary for me because now I could take the same experience into a handheld where I could go anywhere with it. And at the time, it really did feel like a one-to-one. I know looking back on it, the game was very stripped down on the PSP, but it felt so special back then. And then you think about the story mode added unique storylines. The stuff with Undertaker and Eddie Guerrero is a lot of fun. The stuff with reuniting ECW even before WWE did is really good. There's so much that's here, and it was maybe my favorite of the Versus Raw series, and I'm gonna give it an A tier. And the reason I say it was maybe my favorite of the Versus Raw series is because 07 comes in with a banging soundtrack, adding Money in the Bank, which you can still play today, and it holds up. The gameplay holds up. Ultimate Control grapples. That insane fluidity really, really makes you feel like you're in control of whatever you want to do. They added fighting into the crowd. They added barbed wire weapons. So much of this game I spent way too many hours playing, and it was also my first experience playing games online, and getting a taste of that. Finding out the secrets of hey, did you know there's an ultimate special where you push someone off the cherry picker in the parking lot brawl, or in the barroom brawl, you can have the giant Hulk Hogan statue fall on somebody, or electrocute them when you're fighting in the crowd. So many fun things this game does, and it still holds up. And I'm gonna say this is S tier. And again, I can't stress it enough. That soundtrack is probably the best in any WWE game ever. Unfortunately, the pattern continues, and I really do feel like SmackDown vs. Raw 08 was one of the first times I put on a game, I saw the downgrade, and simply said, yeah, this one isn't for me. Unfortunately, it really just wasn't. I like a lot of the elements of the fighting styles, and if you're a heel, you can hide behind the referee, and if you're a hardcore guy, you can do the Terry Funk whirly bird with the ladder, or the Sabu triple jump moonsault. But outside of those things, it really felt very weak to me, and that's why I'm giving it a D tier. Some fun things. I do love that it was, Punk's first game. Randy Orton had a really cool RKO, which was like the first catching finisher before they, made that a feature. But ultimately not a strong game. Same has to be said, I must say, for the SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 game. For me, it's like the epitome of a C. It's fine. I think if you were younger at the time, it connects with you stronger. I was 15 going on 16, so I was more interested in dating, just doing other things, and honestly, the gameplay style didn't resonate with me as like, wow, I'm really immersed in the WWE experience. It was very quick and arcade-like, and this was around the time, transparently, where if I was playing with someone, it was strangers online, and that's never a good way to play a wrestling game or any game, honestly, because if you're relying on strangers to kind of match your energy, they're usually just going to spam and try to win. So that's not what you want from your wrestling game experience. What I will say is the Road to WrestleMania gameplay modes were very strong to me, and I really enjoy Tony the Soldier doing his thing, and that is one of the takeaways from this game. The fun story modes, the fun, Road to WrestleManias. I like that stuff. I kind of wish they'd bring it back a little bit, but ultimately, this isn't a strong game for me. One thing that is, and got things back on the right track, was SmackDown vs. Raw 2010, which I am going to put in the B tier, because this game had a lot of great creation options. You were really getting to like creating a move, creating a story. That was the hook for this game, and it really allowed for a lot of versatility with playstyles, especially again as I'm mostly just playing by myself at this point. Adding these features gave me a reason to keep playing, and I did enjoy the Road to WrestleMania modes with like Shawn Michaels and the Champion of Champions storyline. This one was really solid and made me feel good about purchasing it and playing it for my full wrestling immersion experience. SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 to me is interesting because they added so many things that I love and that I would love in future games. But I think had I had the group of friends that I would go on to play with beginning in the next year, this might be an S tier for me, but it's only going in the A tier because I was still largely a single player, and universe mode I tried to enjoy, but it was kind of bugged in the sense that you could build a rivalry and build a story, but then the rankings would just usurp whatever you had built. I loved the weapon physics. I loved the Road to WrestleMania storylines with, Rey Mysterio turning heel and El Toro Americano, which is funny because they just did that on TV with El Grande Americano. There's also the great Undertaker storyline where you have to end the streak. There's a lot to love about this game, and I think had I had that group of friends that I would get moving forward, it'd probably be an S tier for me. And WWE 12 is where I found that group of friends. But even before I get into that, I just want to say the Road to WrestleMania with that game was probably my favorite single player experience in any WWE game in history. I liked the fact that it was one mode and all of these experiences bled into one another. They did a great job creating storylines that were genuinely engaging, and you wanted to see what would happen next, whether it was the United Kingdom storyline or the Ms. Triple H story that eventually led to the Jacob Cass storyline and the WCW invasion. This game was probably rock solid when it comes to that, when it comes to the fact that the little things, like it added an intro, and I wish more games had intros. I loved the creator an arena. I really got into a lot of that at the time, and community creations was coming on strong. It was buggy for most of the year, but when it worked, it was a lot of fun to get your favorite wrestlers or alternative attires for, new wrestlers. But I want to talk about the online because that's where I spent most of my time with this game. I met a group of people and we would play ladder matches, and we all became so close that for the next 3 summers, it was largely just me and this group of people playing PlayStation and, just kind of navigating life. We were all in our late teens, early 20s at the time, and we just became really fast friends. And, I'm still largely friends with all those people to this day. And this game changed my life. And there's no replacement for that. It's a really special game for me personally, and it has great gameplay and mechanics. I'm giving it an A tier because there's so much room to improve, but there's so much love that I have for this game. WWE 13, unfortunately, wasn't the full improvement that we wanted, but I love the Attitude Era mode. I think the cover of the game goes pretty hard. I loved just exploring more of the, special referee was re-added. You could do a lot of the Creation Suite stuff was still there. Championship Scramble still there. There's a lot to play around with. But where the game falters and why it won't get as high as 12 did, there was bugs with like the creative finishers didn't work as well. There's bugs in triple threats where the AI would just go after you because it was programmed to do so due to a match in the Attitude Era mode, and that kind of carried over into every game mode. But for me, it was really about this friend group. We grew closer. We would just fuck around all the time, finding glitches, finding ways to spice up these ladder matches we were doing. And again, it was just an extension of one of the most fun time periods in my life. And for that, it's going to get no lower than a B because it's not as good as 12, but it's still so special to me. WWE 14, however, or 2K14, because technically 2K does take over from here on out, is an S-tier game for me. And the reason that is, even without getting into the online stuff, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a game programmer. And one of the games I wanted to make was a WWE game where you go through all the eras. You go through the Hogan era, the New Generation era, up to the modern era. And that's what this game allows you to do with 30 years of WrestleMania. And it's so special. All the Mania arenas look so good. Even the ones that, you're not going to get again. Like, no one's ever going to put WrestleMania 11 in a game again. No one's ever going to go out of their way to include, like, WrestleMania 8 in the Hoosier Dome. And all the wrestlers had multiple attires. There was a lot of love and care that went into this game. And I think even though it doesn't have the backstage capabilities of Here Comes the Pain or the Ultimate Control style grapples and freedom in that way of SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, or even just the chaos and cutscenes of SmackDown 2, it's S tier for me because the gameplay was perfected at that point. It was the peak of the THQ era, and I think people are going to look back on this game really soon as an all-timer. And for me, it already is that. It was that from the moment I got it. That friend group and we continued to have banger matches. I mean, like, I wish I had recorded more of that stuff now just to have it with me. But this game is so special to me. The Undertaker beat the streak mode and defend the streak mode. So special. Gave a lot of replay value. And again, that was important to me because when I wasn't playing with those people, I was still largely a single player. And I had options. And it's worth noting, this is the first game I bought digitally. And as a disabled person, I never looked back because it was just easier for me to do that. But with all the discussions about physical media, I do think it's important to have that option. But I will say when my life was made easier by buying digital, I never looked back personally. Now, from one of the happiest moments of my life to one of the saddest moments of my life, W2K15 is an awful game. And I say that because I'm judging this based on the PlayStation 4 version. Because that was the main version of the game. It was, oh my god, it's exciting. We're moving up. But just like you see with Just Bring It, when you transition to a new console, it's not great. And I'm not even putting this on the D tier, like I did with the other two games that transferred over to a new generation of PlayStation. I'm putting this in F tier. And the reason that is because 2K stripped away all of that work that the previous team had done to really get the game down to a science. There were no clunky heads-up meters. Everything was really, really clean, and I missed that aesthetic. And also, they stripped away a lot of the creativity with the match types. There were like 3 versions of just plain no-holds-barred matches, and they tried to pass that off as like, oh, this exciting upgrade. Yes, the graphics were great, but the gameplay really suffered, and it was one of the worst downgrades I've ever played through. And I'm going to be honest, that energy continues for me through 2K16, and I'm not going to put it in the F tier because it wasn't coming down from one of the greatest games of all time. But I will put it in the D tier and say I really wasn't a fan of the 2K series when they were starting out. I still thought the gameplay was slow and clunky. I still wanted more of a clean aesthetic. I still wanted a little bit faster gameplay. Again, I really just felt like everything I loved about the series was stripped away. The important thing is the next 3 games just get slowly better and better and better. Because 17, I really played a lot by myself, and I did a great universe mode where instead of taking my roster of guys and putting them up against my friends' rosters of their custom guys, I used that roster for universe mode, and I created like a full roster of tag teams, women, men, and I did that primarily for my time with 2K17, and it was a really special experience as the gameplay was starting to pick up in terms of pace, and I was really happy with the changes that were being made. Also, AJ Styles' first game, a lot of the first games for the 4 Horsewomen, so really special game in that way as well. 2K18, I'm going to say it's a B tier. It improved on everything I liked about 2K17. The graphics were better. The gameplay was getting smoother. They were really starting to find their groove with this style of gameplay, and I was very happy with it. I think my career in all these games slowly got better over time. I personally would prefer more of a season mode type of story where it's a little more random and you can play with any superstar, but I appreciate what the My Career modes are. With 2K19, I'm going to go ahead and give it an A tier. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people have this in their S tier because I know it was the game that carried people through the pandemic. I didn't have that experience because by this time I was getting into wrestling media. I was having less time to play games. But when I did play, it was smooth. I was able to have epic matches with my friends. I was able to enjoy the towers that they created. I was able to enjoy the buzz, my career. And I was, again, just really happy with everything that was presented with this game. And if you have that experience of it being your main game throughout the pandemic, I can only imagine that it's probably the GOAT for so many young players. 2K20 sucks and is a broken game and is horrible and forced them to take a year off. And that's why it's going in the F tier. We don't really need to talk about it. It was just a broken, flawed game. They tried to come back with 2K22. They did. I will say that I don't love the button combo gameplay style that currently exists in the game, but I'll give it a C tier because it is a functional game and, started to get things on the right track. I would say same thing for 2K23. I enjoy inclusion of things like war games. I enjoyed the John Cena story mode, but nothing super crazy from the previous year to write home about. 2K24, for me, same thing. We're just marginal improvements, but nothing that's really standing out for me. Like, oh my god, you have to play this. 2K25, I'm going to put that in the B tier. Things are getting better, but not, it's not this kind of thing of like, oh man, I need to play this. You gotta stop what you're doing. And this game is so great on its own. I know the modding community does the Lord's work, and they have so much fun. And every time I look at a modded video of any of these games, I'm like, they're making it worthwhile. But for me, it's not going much higher than a B. And I'm going to put 2K26 to round this all out in the B tier as well. I enjoy the island mode stuff. I enjoy the ragdoll physics a lot. It's actually one of the reasons why I've been having the most fun with this game than any others, because the ragdoll physics and the gameplay style has made it a little more fun for me. But I really do miss the smooth gameplay of the end of the THQ years and early 2K years. But there you have it. That's my rankings for all of the SmackDown series of professional wrestling games. I would say, 2K14 so special for me because of that group of friends. W12 is so special for me because of that group of friends. I know they're out there. I know at least one of them is watching. And I'm still super grateful for all those times. Even WWE13, when my friend sold it multiple times to play Fire Pro Wrestling or whatever the fuck, because he just got annoyed with the glitches. I'm grateful for my time playing any of these games. These games shaped my childhood. They helped me get through some rough times in my early adult years. And I'm just glad I'm in a position now where I get to share that fandom and that experience in a different way. And that's what I want to wrap this video up talking about. If you made it this far, thank you so much. 34 minutes is a lot to commit, and it means the world to me if you stayed. I'm really trying hard to get my own vision out there for wrestling media. It's hard to start over, guys. It's hard to not have the backing of an outlet. But I still have a voice that I want to share, and I still have a love of wrestling that I want to share. And so much of that is my love of wrestling games. And this is just the beginning. If you like this, I have plans to do so much more with wrestling and wrestling games. And I want to do more to grow this channel, to grow the Substack. Because wrestling means the world to me. And I still want to share my passion for it with a community. So if you want to be part of that community, thank you so much. Leave a comment. Be sure to check out the Substack. Be sure to check out the other videos on the channel. You can check me out on social media at DudeFelice. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I'll see you guys in the next one.